A deadly powerhouse storm rips through the panhandle of Florida.
Hurricane Michael is a hurricane of the worst kind,
leaving behind devastation and destruction.
There's going to be a lot of good people hurting.
The Category 4 storm pounding the Gulf Coast, delivering a storm surge that left parts of the coast underwater. All eyes on Georgia as the storm passing through. I'm keeping you up to date on the very latest.
Powerful images this morning as we're getting a closer look at Michael's destructive path. Once the sun rises, the focus shifts to assessing the damage, recovery, and cleanup. This morning, Georgia is still feeling the impacts. Michael is still here, now a tropical storm. And taking a live look right now at Madison, Georgia, the rain has moved out, but the gusty winds are still there, moving through, as you can see from these American flags. The wet weather has been going on throughout the night and into the morning all through the state. This morning, we have team coverage for you, covering all angles of the storm and its impacts from Florida to Metro Atlanta. But first, we're going to kick off your Rush Block with Chesley. He has been here for several hours covering Michael for all of you.
All right, let's get right to it, folks, and show you exactly what's taking place. The good news is that the rain that we had through, well, I'd say started yesterday afternoon, is starting to subside in our area. A little bit lighter now in the city of Atlanta. Most of the heavy rain has pushed over into South Carolina. The center of circulation, where we have winds at about 50 miles per hour, now pushing, it's still in the state, still in our extreme eastern portions of the state, right now very close to, this would be Augusta, Georgia here, very, very close there. We'll zoom right on in and show you that a little bit better. You can see that heavy rain has pushed past Augusta, but there's the center of circulation there. And so we got winds there about 50 miles per hour. So our eastern counties still experiencing those very, very strong winds. Meanwhile, here in Metro Atlanta, we are looking at some light rain that's still coming down, of course. Roadways still wet. And so be very careful as you're traveling out there, folks. From Canton down through Roswell, Atlanta, McDonough, Peachtree City down through Rover, we do have that light rain continuing. Now, Jerry Carnes is right here. This is Morgan County. That's the city of Madison. You saw those flags flying around earlier. Jerry, what are the conditions like right now?
Chesley, it appears that the worst of this is behind us, but I said that once before and I was wrong. So what we've got right now is still gusting winds. The rain is gone. Nothing like the 30-minute battering of wind and rain that we took just a little while ago between the 5 and the 6 a.m. hour. It was 30 minutes of very intense wind, and it caused some damage. You can see right here a tree here in downtown Madison. The tree limbs here have snapped, two of them, two fairly large limbs, fortunately just hitting the ground below, and we've got reports of that all over Morgan and nearby Greene County, multiple limbs down, not causing any extensive damage, but that was from that very heavy period of wind and rain that we took between the 5 a.m. and the 6 a.m. hour. Power outages all throughout this area, but again, it appears right now that the worst may be behind us as we're in a period of the rain gone and just the occasional gust of wind. Let's continue our coverage now with Christy Etheridge, who's in Marianna, Florida.
We are just outside of Marianna, Florida. That's about 60 miles north of the coast, and it is incredible the amount of destruction that we saw on the drive from Panama City all the way up Highway 231. They actually just shut down the interstate this morning, and we had to try and navigate our way around to find just a little bit of service to come and bring you this broadcast. But let's take some video from yesterday, because this is what we experienced when we were in Panama City as that Category 4 hurricane hit. At some point, we had to take shelter ourselves. Those extreme winds were just too dangerous to be outside. Everything became a projectile, and the hotel that we were sheltering in took quite a beating too. The siding was ripped off. We saw shingles being ripped off the roof and flying by the window. A big planter tried to break in the door, and we actually had to physically hold the door to keep it from flying open. It was unlike anything I've ever seen. A couple people did stay, more than a couple actually. Several people did stay in Panama City to ride out this storm. We talked to them after it was over.
For a brief second, we thought the roof was going to cave in. We had some of the insulation coming down from the roof. It was scarier than hell.
So this morning, the cleanup begins here in Marianna, Florida. There is a staging event several miles from here where communication trucks are going to go, and they're going to start the process of getting up those cell towers and communication again, but that could take several weeks. Back to you.
All right, Christy, glad you are safe this morning. Be careful coming back home. Of course, she's going to have to drive through a lot of debris that hit down here in southwestern Georgia as well. Now, the storm itself almost out of our state. The center of circulation just right there on the border near Augusta will continue to push away as we head through the morning. Our conditions here will get better through the day. We'll keep the clouds around at least through mid-morning. By the afternoon, those will clear out. Now, we'll stay breezy as well. We're looking at those winds out of the northwest, about 15 to 20 miles per hour. Gusts could be a little higher than that at times. But skies will get better for us and a beautiful day on tap, plus the weekend. We'll talk more about that coming up. Crash Clark, how's my ride looking this morning?
It is very wet and sloppy, my friend, as you can imagine. That's what we're dealing with. You see the water on the lens of the Sky Tracker camera, and you see the brake lights on the east side perimeter, and things are filling up on that east side. Look at the red on the right side of your screen there. We're going to get to a brand new wreck, 285 northbound, right near the Indian Creek MARTA station between Covington and Memorial Drive, and you can see some of that volume pushing back towards I-20 now. Speaking of I-20, this is where we have our fatality wreck from about 2:35 this morning, I-20 eastbound. We're putting it between I-285 and Wesley Chapel, but they're forcing traffic off right here. That's why you see that red. They're forcing you off at Columbia. It's one of your alternates, though, Columbia Drive, Glenwood, Flat Shoals, or Candler Road to get around it. But, folks, you are waking up to some very wet and treacherous roads. If you can, wait till the sun comes up. Sheba?
Hurricane Michael, now the strongest storm to ever hit the Florida Panhandle, a near Cat 5 at landfall. The damage is catastrophic. Homes and businesses ripped to shreds. The storm surge leaving cities underwater. At least 2 people have died so far, including an 11-year-old Georgia girl. Here in Georgia, Athens-Clarke County is in Michael's path, and Ashley Johnson is in Athens with a look at the impact on schools.
As is usually the case, grocery stores packed, shelves with water pretty empty.
When we hear about storms in other areas, we do try to get prepared.
UGA students are also worried about how Michael might affect them. Midterms are right around the corner.
I'm from Texas, and we had tornadoes all the time. I had part of my house destroyed by a tornado, so it's just sort of like I'm very cautious in that area of tornadoes.
UGA posted on Twitter, campus will not open until 10, with first classes starting at 11 a.m.
We're hoping to get the rest of tomorrow off and then all of Friday. So a long weekend to be able to de-stress for our midterms and things like that.
Clark County schools are closed Thursday. UGA has opened an emergency shelter.
When the sun rises in the Panhandle this morning, it won't be a pretty sight. Our crews eyeing some of the damage on their way out of Panama City Beach. They're now 40 to 50 miles north in Marianna, Florida.
But we had to evacuate because Panama City this morning is not a safe place to be. We'll start showing you some video that we shot immediately after Hurricane Michael came through, and the devastation is simply unbelievable. That entire town took a massive hit from this storm. There are businesses that are destroyed. In some neighborhoods, every single tree went down. Homes were destroyed. People are going to have to take a very long time to be able to pick up the pieces. We were actually told that where we were staying in Panama City was no longer safe, and we had to make a drive 40 miles. But I will tell you, all 40 of those miles were some of the scariest I've ever been in my entire life. Trees were down, power lines were down. The devastation is not just along the coast, it even goes inland. And so this is going to take a very long time for the people of this region to clean up from Hurricane Michael.
And as we watch Michael swiftly march across Georgia, the feds are mobilizing its relief efforts.
FEMA says they're ready. They've got people and supplies in place. President Trump says he is monitoring the storm response, even as he was criticized for attending a political rally during the onset of that Category 4 storm. Meantime, Vice President Pence, his trip to Atlanta has been delayed again. That happened in September, and he tweeted last night that after consulting with officials in Georgia, he's going to have to postpone that trip in the aftermath of the storm response.
6:38 right now. That is your Rush Block. We want to turn now to the power outages here in our state and the impacts to air travel right now. Jennifer Bellamy in the newsroom tracking the latest.
Good morning. We are seeing more and more people reporting a loss of power. I've been following the outages on power maps for you this morning, and we've seen some movement just within the last half hour. Right now, we're seeing reports of more than 357,000 Georgia customers without power all over the state. That number from Georgia Power and Georgia EMC rising from the 306,000 we told you about last hour. Most of those outages are in central and southern Georgia, with more than 25,000 Metro Atlanta customers dealing with power outages. That number is up from 14,000 that we told you about earlier. A big problem is those high winds and the downed trees. You're looking at overnight images out of Atlanta. Trees down across Euclid Avenue and Andrews Drive. And things will likely not begin to improve until later in the day when they can get some daylight for the crews and they can safely assess the damage and start repair work. Can't forget about the airports. We are taking a live look right now out at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, where we're only seeing a small impact from Michael. I just checked the tracking site FlightAware for the latest numbers, and we have seen some changes with this too. They're reporting only 8 cancellations and 5 delays out of the Atlanta airport. That is a slight increase from my last report. Nationwide, 690 flights have been canceled, up from 632, and 145 delayed, up from 100 nearly. Those numbers changing within the last hour as well. Several airports in the state have been closed, including the Southwest Georgia Regional and Middle Georgia airports. They are set to reopen later this morning, and the Robins Air Force Base Airport expected to remain closed until about noon. So we'll keep updating you on all this information, the impacts on Michael here in our region on 11alive.com. We're going to send things over now to Crash Clark.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We are still watching this fatal accident, I-20 eastbound right near Columbia Drive in 285 in DeKalb County. That roadway is shut down eastbound, as you can see here from this look with the Sky Tracker. Westbound delays are forming as well. As far as the roads are concerned, more problems out there. Jennifer Leslie on the scene with breaking news. A tree has fallen on a minivan and trapped 2 occupants. Jennifer?
Crash, what a scary morning for the neighbors here. This is Anderson Avenue Northwest in the northwest part of Atlanta. And just down this driveway, there is a minivan that was crushed by a huge oak tree that fell from a neighbor's yard. Even though it was parked and in the driveway, there was a couple inside when this happened in the early morning hours. We understand that the husband was able to get out, we believe, on his own, and then called for help. And the woman, the wife, was also in the vehicle and trapped. She had to be rescued by firefighters. They came and they actually had to cut her out of this vehicle, and they took her to Grady Hospital with some injuries. We don't know her condition right now, but neighbors say they heard the boom when this tree fell and that it was very windy at the time. We can feel some wind gusts here this morning. We've been here for about 20 minutes and have felt the wind gusts as well. So again, just down this driveway, the woman in the hospital now after being trapped by a falling tree, a tree that fell from the neighbor's yard on this minivan. Don't know her condition. Firefighters have left the scene. Also, Georgia Power came out to make sure that the wires that are down here are not live anymore and are not a danger. Let's check in now with Chesley McNeil for a look at the aftermath and I guess the morning of Michael.
Yes, still dealing with some of that rain, Jennifer, and some of the wind as well. I think the wind will be with us. It will be a bit breezy right on through the rest of the afternoon. Heaviest rain now pushing into South Carolina. We still have some moderate bands, we'll say, over toward our easternmost counties, now pushing east of Athens. It's coming to an end here in Atlanta. So that's the way it's going to be for at least the rest of the morning. Rain will be ending. The winds will remain strong over toward the east and a bit breezy here in the metro area. And after that, believe it or not, folks, fall arrives. Can't wait for that. We'll be talking about that in our full forecast coming up. Now, you can track the storm anytime you want with our 11 Alive app. You can check out what's happening where you live. Our interactive maps and radar are all there. Be sure you can sign up for the severe weather alerts as well. It's our 11 Alive app, folks. Use it.